Hello all, Cheri here from The Watering Mouth. I did a workshop last week about how to overcome self-sabotage and it went over so well. It was live and I wanted to make it into its own video so you could reference in the future. So go ahead and take a look.
So today is going to be so much fun. This is a topic that I haven't taught on, but as I was preparing the lesson for today, I was so excited because I should have taught this topic a long time ago. I have some very particular thoughts about self-sabotage. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm just going to add my iPad to the conversation real quick. So we're going to be talking about self-sabotage today, and I have such a particular viewpoint of self-sabotage, and I'm excited to talk to you about it because I think it's maybe something you've never thought of before. I'm not just going to tell you, the same old advice about how to stop self-sabotaging yourself, right? I have a very interesting concept here, so I'm excited to give this to you. So if you're watching the replay, of course, as always, thank you so much for watching the replay. I'm so glad you're here. You can comment below too, even if you're not watching this live. Let me know how you are doing. What are you up to? How is your challenge going? So I hope that all of your challenges are going really well, that you're feeling strong. It's day 4 already, so we're almost done. It's crazy. Cheri says, she says, I'm so good at self-sabotage. Thought about it a lot and wondered why. Good. So I'm going to answer this for you today, Cheri. I'm going to answer your question. Now, I have an awesome presentation for you today. As always, I'm going to answer your questions at the end. So feel free to ask any questions you have about the subject matter. If it brings anything up and you want to talk about it and you're wondering something about it, let me know and we will answer those questions at the end. Okay. I'm actually going to take off my sweater. Usually it's really cold in here, but I feel kind of okay right now. So we'll see if I can venture into the land of no sweaterdom. So self-sabotage. Let's talk about how to overcome self-sabotage. Now, this is a familiar concept for us, right? So let's give some examples of what self-sabotage might be. So some examples of what self-sabotage might be. So for instance, and guess what, guys? I found out that I have this really cool, I want to stop saying guys. I need to train myself because I want to say, friends or something like that, because we're not all guys. Most of us are women, actually. So I need to say like folks, or what do you think I should call you when I'm talking to you? Folks or friends or what? What should I say? In the family, we always call each other fam, or we call each other pals. That's PAAL because that's the simple program that we follow in there, the 4-step program. So we call each other pals. What should I call everyone here on the lives? So some examples of self-sabotage, and you probably have some too. You could share them with me if you like. Number 1 example here is overeating when we're doing really well. All right. So like say you're on your path, you're trying to follow a plan, whatever, and then you're doing really well. Say that the scale goes down a little bit, and then that's the day that you start overeating again. So the scale goes back up, right? So it's funny though, because that's an example of self-sabotage, but there's another example of self-sabotage that's the exact opposite. Oh, and I meant to say, I found this fancy tool on my iPad here, which is it's a clicker or something. So I can like highlight stuff and you can see it and then watch. It disappears. How cool is that? So I'm going to use that today. So here's the example I gave you, overeating when we're doing well, which is silly, right? Like we're doing really well and we're losing weight. And then right when we notice we're losing weight, that's when we go off track, right? Or overeating when we're not doing well. So we can't win either way, right? We're trying to do this. We're not really doing very well. And so we overeat more because we feel shame and embarrassment and, anger at ourselves or whatever. So there's a couple examples, which is funny about self-sabotage that they conflict anyways. Like, you've got the sabotage thing going on either way. Here's another one. You do well for a while, right? So maybe you do well for a long period of time and then you just go and gain it all back and then some, right? Or you know what to do, but you just can't seem to do it, right? You have all the knowledge, but you're not sure how to do it. So let's talk about what is self-sabotage exactly, right? So I gave this example of overeating when we're doing well, but I want to kind of characterize it. And this is the thing, what usually happens with us is that we have these concepts in our mind and we keep doing them over and they're like repeated behavior. We keep doing this behavior over and over again. But we don't take enough time to really acknowledge that behavior and really see that it's happening and see what it's doing and why we're doing it and all that. That's what we do with coaching. That's what we do with self-coaching and in group coaching and in private coaching. We're actually just taking the time to slow down a minute, see what's going on, and try to improve from there. So I want you to take this moment today to slow down with me and look at what self-sabotage is. Not just exactly what it is, because we just gave some examples of it, but what it really feels like. And so what I want to give you these examples here. So first of all, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? I was telling you that it's just when we start to do good, that's when we start to pull back and sabotage again, right? Or we start to do sort of the opposite of what our goal is, right? That's what that sabotage is. So that's a very counterintuitive thing. It kind of seems sometimes like we're messing up on purpose, which that just doesn't make sense, right? Is it subconscious? Is it just programming that we have? Which, yeah, some of it is, right? It's something that we've learned from other areas. We've learned from other behaviors that we've repeated in the past. It's something that we've practiced, right? We've practiced the self-sabotage for a long time. And it has become it's just a part of our program, right? Like imagine a computer program or something. It's like we kept writing the same instruction in to self-sabotage once it starts to go well, or self-sabotage when we're having a bad day or stressful and having a stressful time or whatever. It's like engage destruct program, right? Like engage self-destruct program or something. So it kind of feels like it's a little bit programmed in. But interestingly, self-sabotage actually has a lot to do with trying to protect ourselves and save ourselves from pain. So for instance, overeating when we're doing well, we kind of have these thoughts maybe, well, this one is a little bit different. This one is more like, well, I've been doing so well, I can take a break, right? So we are kind of trying to save ourselves from pain a little bit there. We don't want to continue doing the work. So we're like, we can take a break for a moment, right? Or this one, overeating when we're not doing well, we're trying to save ourselves. We have this story in our head that we're always just going to gain it back anyways, right? Or we can't seem to do it right. So might as well save ourselves from that pain and self-sabotage at that point, right? And that's it's protective. It's something that the brain does. We talk about this in week 1 of the Academy. I'm sure many of you have heard about this concept before from The Pleasure Trap, the book that kind of makes the round in this community as well, about the motivational triad. So it's the motivation of a human brain is in 3 parts. So one of them is to seek pleasure, one is to avoid pain, and one is to be efficient. And so if the brain is kind of always motivated for these 3 goals, you can see why maybe we might give up after a while of healthy eating, because it's like our brain just keeps telling us, no, we need to be efficient, we need to save energy, we need to avoid pain. We're not going to keep doing the new thing, right? Like we can do the new thing for a little while, but we can't do it forever, right? So our brain is telling us these stories that we can't keep doing it, and so we stop, or we get to we start to lose a little bit of weight, and then we think, oh, might as well have that extra cookie, or now I can have a break, right? And so it's sort of programmed into our brain to seek pleasure, to avoid pain, and at some point we listen to it again, and then that sabotage program engages again, right? But what happens is when we're seeing this, so for instance, this idea of overeating when we're doing really well, which makes absolutely no sense. You would think that you would keep doing well, right? But instead you do the opposite. It's confusing. And what happens is we don't take a moment to just stop and see what's going on. We don't take a moment to just like think about it and figure out what we're doing and be like, oh, I'm doing this again, where I think it's okay to overeat because because I've been doing well for so long, I'm doing that again. So why don't I try to reverse that or whatever? We just go in autopilot mode. So you notice like when you start a diet or a lifestyle, you have a lot of beginner motivation. You have a lot of beginner thoughts because there's excitement. You haven't done it before. You're on a new start. So you have this set of motivation that doesn't exist otherwise. But once you've been doing it for a while, it becomes old hat and you're like, I can take a break, right? So at first you're starting from these thoughts that are really motivating in a positive way. And then those kind of fade away and you go back to your old programming. And so when we go back to our old programming, what is actually happening is we are getting to a point of autopilot. So we kind of just go back to our old ways and we go back to our old thoughts because it's impossible to keep motivation and excitement up all the time, right? We have to have some downtime and some rest at some point too. So we go back to those old patterns and we allow ourselves to go back into automatic thought patterns instead of the new exciting thought patterns. We go into automatic thought patterns. When we do automatic thought patterns, we get confused about why we're now not willing to do what we were just doing a week ago, right? So when we get confused about that, we don't even stop to think and we just keep eating the pizza, right? We keep eating the donuts or whatever because we're like, oh, this feels really good. We go to those old thoughts that were motivating that kind of a thing. And it's confusing for us. That's the point I want to make. It's confusing because we're not taking the time to think about what's actually happening. So we're going to be thinking about what's actually happening on this presentation. And I want you to be taking notes, but I also want you to watch this video over and over again. And guess what? For those of you who do not end up joining the family, these videos are going to disappear after Sunday. So you'll want to take your notes. You'll want to watch the videos over and over again. But if you do end up joining the family, then these videos are already in the family and they're all loaded so you can watch them again whenever you like, okay? And yeah, Pamela says, sometimes I celebrate when I have 10 pounds, when I lose 10 pounds and have a few cheat days, then there goes my clean mindset, motivation, and momentum. Celebrating or being sad equals cheat days. For sure, for sure. And Wendy says, yes, to Pamela, I give myself a reward for doing so well. That's exactly right? This type of self-sabotage here. And it's confusing. It's confusing too, because we don't think about why we're doing it. We just do it. And then we get mad at ourselves and we're stuck in the mad, but we're not looking at so we're like, well, why did we do this? I was doing so well. I don't know what's wrong with me, right? So that's why it's confusing. Then we start to think to ourselves, why bother? Why should I keep doing this? This happens all the time. Why do I keep going? And then we start to make up a story of, well, there must be something wrong with me, right? Because I just keep doing this. I have faulty programming, right? Can you kind of see how it was just a set of thoughts. We're going to get a lot more into that as we go. So yeah, we have some Me Too's from Debbie as well and Wendy. Then I go into self-sabotaging mode. That's right. Okay, so we're going to talk about that now. So why do we self-sabotage? Two main reasons, and then the one we just talked about. So number one, fear of success. Okay. Fear of success. What do I mean by fear of success? I mean, well, it's kind of a subconscious thing that we're not really looking into, right? So one of them is we think we won't be able to hold on to our success. So we have this thought in our mind, we're not going to be able to hold on to it. So why do we self-sabotage? Fear of success. These feel very elusive, right? Because this thing of us just not really focusing on what's happening, they feel so elusive, but let's make them not elusive right now. Okay. I have to put this back up so that will go away. So number one, we won't be able to hold on to it. We have a sort of unconscious thought in our brain that we don't really bring to the surface much, but it's constantly there. We won't be able to hold on to our success once we get there, right? We also have a thought, oh, we just don't deserve it. Where did that go? Oops. We think, oh, well, we just don't deserve success, right? She deserves to be that weight, but I certainly don't. Or they are a healthy eater, but I'm not, right? We have these stories about ourselves. We have these identities that we've created, and we keep having that identity repeated in our own head. And because it's a subconscious thought and it keeps getting repeated, we never take that time to really look at it, break it down, and which you'll see this in a moment, break it down and then help it dissolve. So when we have that story for ourselves, we constantly keep repeating it. I don't deserve it. I won't be able to hold on to it because I never have in the past, right? If we don't really I'm trying to think of a good example. It's like it's underneath a blanket or something, and it's always there. It always keeps happening. But if we don't lift up that blanket and actually just look at it, we'll never dissolve it. It's like we're saying, we're just going to keep it here. It's fine. It's comforting for me to feel like I don't deserve it. It's comforting for me to feel like I won't be able to hold on to it because that's normal. That's a normal thought for me to have. That's a normal pattern that I have from the past, and I'm just going to keep repeating it. In our life coaching school, we call this our wubby. Like this is our little teddy bear. It's our little blankie that we keep with us because it feels very normal for us. Success doesn't feel normal for us, right? There's another one here. We're worried that we'll lose friends. Now, we don't outwardly think this, but we might think it inside sort of subconsciously like, well, if I'm really thin, what is my overweight friend going to think of me then, right? How will I how will I relate to my overweight friends? Or how will I relate to, this is a huge one for us in Eat to Live. How will I relate to the people who don't eat healthy, right? How will I be able to go to any holiday party or any wedding or anything like that and survive, right? Because I'm going to bring a salad or I'm going to have eaten already and I won't eat. How will I have any sort of social life anymore? So we have, and maybe it's not even subconscious. Maybe we really actually think about this all the time, right? So there's another one. Or maybe we're scared of attention. This can happen a lot when someone has past trauma in their life, but also just folks who maybe don't really love having a lot of attention. I just coached someone the other day about when you go, it's sort of related to the last one, but when you go to an event like this and people are asking you, why are you eating this way? Or don't you want to just let loose sometime or whatever, right? That kind of thinking can, and this happens with almost all of my female clients, the private clients that I have, and then also in the group clients as well. There's always something that comes up that's, well, if I go to this thing and they start asking me questions, sometimes we're even worried that we can come up with good answers that, if someone questions, why am I a vegan, or why do I eat to live, or why do I do this? I don't even know what I'm going to say. Or if someone questions, don't you just want to live in moderation? Isn't it better for you, right? So all these questions can come up socially, and that gives us a lot of fear to have to be in the spotlight for being weird, right? Or being strange. Oh my gosh, we have so many yeses here as I'm trying to just talk. It's so funny. We got yes, yes, yes. Yep, that's it. Attention. Oh my gosh, I actually have a fear of success. Embarrassing for sure, right? And don't get tempted from your cheat day friends. Exactly. So we have some more here. Trina, bang on, right? Margaret, success is an unknown. Jennifer, yes, right? So clearly you guys are relating to this same exact idea here of success being so scary. Now it's funny because the idea of when we start to have some success and when we start to become known for our success, there's a messy period there of your friends feel like they can't relate to you anymore food-wise, or they have their own thoughts about what it means to get together and have social time together, right? You worry that you're not going to be able to relate to your friends at the same time because you're going to have this divide, right? You might imagine this divide between the two of you that suddenly you're no longer fully enjoying your time together. And this is what happens with any kind of growth, right? Did you ever hear the quote that's surround yourself with I think it was from Jim Rohn, a motivational speaker, surround yourself with the 5 people you most want to be like, right? But what that means is that they're not going to be like you yet. And then that means that the friends that you have right now that you relate to right now, things might change between the two of you. And so you do have a fear of those things. It's not an unfounded fear. It makes sense to have that fear, but this is a major reason why we can sort of subconsciously self-sabotage anyways, right? So Pat, yes, fear of success for sure. Now, fear of failure, very similar, but this is more of the, to me, this is kind of more the internal ones. I put this one that was external, and that is maybe more of the, fear of success probably. But anyways, these other ones are more internal. So I think afraid of discomfort. We are afraid of the discomfort that it's going to take to get to the goal, right? So we're afraid of, and this is a technique that we talk about in the Eat to Live family and in the academy and all my coaching and all that, the discomfort that it takes to actually do the thing when we really wish we were doing the other thing, right? So we talk about short-term goals and long-term goals. And we talk about short-term discomfort versus long-term discomfort. They're both valid. They're both experienced, but which one wins out, right? So if we're overweight, it's the one that wins out is always the short-term one, right? We don't want to be in short-term pain. So we just push that long-term pain to the wayside because we're not there yet, right? It's interesting too, there's most of my private clients that I mean, almost all of my private clients I've ever worked with are always 50 years and older, always, like hands down. Why? Because we have that fear already of understanding the long term, right? When we're in our 40s or our 30s or our 20s, especially our teens, kids, whatever, we have no idea what that's going to feel like when we get to the place where it's very serious and it really does matter. But funny thing, it matters the whole time. And of course, we know from Eat to Live that it matters even what the mother ate in pregnancy, which is pretty far back. And of course, we can't control that. But it matters what our grandmothers ate and all that for what's happening with our DNA as we grow older. And then it matters what the mother ate for what's happening in the womb, right? It matters. The entire lifespan matters. The life cycle matters. But we can't feel it until we get to those older ages. And so we have this fear of discomfort in the beginning. It's not as easy to hold on to. We let that short-term win out. We let that short-term, it's okay. I just want the pleasure right now, right? I just want to eat the pasta right now. But that long-term is that fear of, when you think like, all right, sitting here, everything was going fine until someone brought some donuts into the break room, right? Everything was fine. And then suddenly your brain goes, ooh, short-term pleasure. Let's have that one, right? Who cares about the long-term thing right now? There are donuts right here, right? So we're choosing, in effect, the difference between well-being, which is the long-term, and instant gratification, which is that short-term. And we're always choosing instant gratification. That's what leads to that shorter long-term, right? The longevity issues, the disease issues, things like that. And yeah, so Free Spirit says, this is totally something I struggle with when out with family, not wanting to join in on fried foods, alcohol. Yep, that's hard to do for sure. And then the courage to overcome your fears for sure. Yeah, okay, so Pamela says, my best friend says harsh things about my tweener son becoming a Nutritarian for sure, right? So there's an actual threat there. There's an actual negative thing happening in your life because of it. People actually are having their judgments, right? So it totally makes sense. Adele, right, says it changes the relationship with the spouse too. Don't eat the same way we did before. Exactly. And my mom just tried to talk to me about being a more mainstream vegan. LOL, isn't that funny? Like, could you just, like, if you're going to be vegan, could you just be a junk food vegan, right? Oh my goodness. What else do we have? Yeah, Trina, it's going to shorten that long term. That's right. Pamela, 52 years young here. And Cheri, instant gratification is always my downfall. Well, good news. It's always all of our downfalls, right? So we're working on that. All right. So afraid of discomfort in the short term so that we can not even have to deal with that long term, but then we get those effects long term, like scared we won't fit in. We talked about before. We also have these worthiness issues, which is really amazing too. This is the real deep stuff. We actually don't even think about this idea. We think we don't deserve it. We actually think that it's for them, right? Like weight loss, healthy eating, that's for those folks. Oh, that's for her. She's always been like that. I could never be that way. That's not who I am, or I don't deserve that. I haven't worked hard enough, or I'm not good enough to have that success. Those are the very deep ones. And actually, all of these issues all come down to that one. All of our struggles all come down to that we feel like we're not worthy. And then also we have a fear of the slippery slope. We have a story in our mind that, well, if I just take one bite of that thing, it's going to go like this. No, because it always does. Always do that. But as I mentioned before, actually what's simply happening here is that our thoughts shifted. Like I said, so in the beginning, when we decide we want to do something healthy, we are going on motivation of the newness of it, right? And that's really something to acknowledge, that there is inherent motivation and inherent excitement in the newness of something. But of course, this is the natural process of the brain. It's called neuroadaptation. We talk about this in the Eat to Live Academy a lot. The brain is meant to adapt to its circumstances. Now, this is actually an amazing technique that the brain has. It's wonderful, and we actually need it. Because say, all of the sudden we're having COVID and it's this global pandemic and we can't handle the stress and we literally just like fall apart because of this, right? Or we neuroadapt, meaning our brain adapts to new circumstances. And when our brain actually adapts to those new circumstances, then it doesn't feel as crazy. It's like when you win the lottery And after a while, it just becomes your norm. You just have a lot of money, right? Or you spend it all and you don't even allow your brain to neuroadapt, right? So yeah, Cheri says, no, I deserve the instant gratification. That's what I tell myself. Yeah, that's exactly why you keep doing it. That's exactly right. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. And this is where it's kind of my take on self-sabotage. And I really hope that it would be really nice if maybe you took notes on this part too, so you could look back on it, especially if you're not going to join the family, just to keep repeating this lesson for yourself, because it all comes down to thoughts. And I'm going to explain exactly how you can get out of that as well. So pay attention. This is going to be awesome. All right. So self-sabotage. Now, I looked up a definition online. Behavior is said to be self-sabotaging when it creates problems in daily life and interferes with long-standing goals. That's what we just talked about, right? So that is what we define self-sabotage as. And we're saying that that is our behavior. So our behavior is said to be self-sabotaging when it creates problems in life. Now, this is sort of the accepted popular definition, right? We all sort of accept this definition of self-sabotage, but then I get mad because I say, why are we even accepting this definition? And I'll explain why this really gets me up in arms in a second. But the main thing that upsets me is because the way we think about things really matters. And in fact, the way we think about things is everything. It's all the things, it's everything. And I'll explain why. But when we think about self-sabotage in this way, well, let me explain. Hold on. So the problem with self-sabotage as a concept, AKA, here's why there is actually no such thing as self-sabotage. What? Yeah. Okay. Just hold on a sec. Let me explain. All right. So here's why there is no such thing as self-sabotage. So we say in my coaching, so I said, what we say to ourselves matters. And in fact, it's everything. So in my coaching, what we say, and this is actually called the model. It's created by Brooke Castillo. It's an amalgamation of a lot of different concepts from various other things, but it's kind of like the CBT model, cognitive behavioral therapy. A lot of other people have said this in different ways, but basically how this goes is that our thoughts create our feelings, and then our feelings create our actions. I say this all the time, and this is very, very true. So our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings create our actions. Now I'm going to show you how this works. Let me switch to my handy pencil here. So our thoughts create our feelings. Now we've got some negative over here and we've got some positive. So let's see the difference. So if our thoughts create our feelings, and we have a thought like, let's see, let me find a good one. So I want to get to this other one later. So let me give a very, very basic one. And I usually do this one with my private clients in the very beginning. So let me give you this very basic one so you can see how this works. And then we'll see how it applies to self-sabotage in a moment. So we have a thought that's like, I love dogs because I've always had them around, right? Okay. So I love dogs because I've always had them around. Now that creates, so these are our thoughts create our feelings. That creates a feeling of love or desire, right? So we'll say love. I love dogs. Creates a feel. So this is our thought. This is our feeling. And then our action is maybe we pet dogs every time we see them, right? Maybe we, this is actually not the negative. Let's switch this around. I won't put this one to be the negative down here. So I love dogs because I've always had them around. You have a feeling of love that creates love and sort of like, just goodwill about dogs. And our actions are pet dogs. Maybe we have a dog. Maybe we dog walk for a hobby. Maybe we love dog memes. That sort of a thing. So we have actions around dogs, right? Now, I'm going to take out the negative for just a second and just show you how this model is true, because I have a very different thought about dogs. Personally, give you my thought about dogs. Dogs, that's supposed to say dogs. Dogs are nice, but usually smelly. And what is my thought? It's like something like too hyper or something like that, right? I know that's not true with all dogs, but that's my thought about them. Dogs are nice, but they're usually smelly and too hyper. What kind of a feeling comes out of that thought when I think that is like avoidance. Okay. That's definitely the feeling that I have about dogs, like avoidance. And then my actions are when I see a dog on the street, I just smile, right? When I go over to my mom's house and I see her dog, I kind of like pet it a little bit and then I go wash my hand, right? Those kinds of actions. Those are my actions about dogs because those are my thoughts about dogs. Now, do I know other people who have thoughts about dogs that are more like this? I love dogs because I've always had them around, or I've loved dogs because they're friendly and they're super loving and they're the best animal, or they give unconditional love like nobody, right? That you have this story about dogs or whatever. My story about dogs is that they're smelly and I don't really want to pet them. I don't really want much to do with them, right? And Rebecca says, that is me with dogs. I don't know which one, but I hope you're on my side because team dog or team cats all the way, right? But so what I'm trying to illustrate for you here is that it's my thoughts about dogs that are creating my feeling of avoidance. And it's my story about dogs, about what they're like. But you ask my mom, she loves dogs, right? She has always had dogs. She's never not had dogs. She actually has 2 dogs. They're super cute and lovable. And she lets them sleep in her bed, right? I would never do that, but that's my story. And then I have this going on, right? Like I always have a cat bugging me, but I love cats, right? And Alexi says, we cat persons. That's right. I so am a cat person. But so I'm just trying to illustrate to you that this is how this model works. But so let's look. So actually, this was a good example because this was a negative. This was a negative emotion or a negative thought about dogs. So you can see how the difference with this works is if our thoughts are positive, we're going to have positive actions and then we're going to positively, do the thing. If our thoughts are negative, we're going to have negative emotions about it and we're going to act negatively. But that's a very silly example, just a very not serious example. Now I'm going to show you how this relates with self-sabotage. This is where it gets super interesting. And I think it's going to be majorly helpful for y'all. So let's look at this because what we say to ourselves matters. All right. Now, Cheri says, yay, kitties and cats. There we go. Vegeta says, dogs are okay, but cats are fabulous. It's so true. Mm-hmm. Amber says, my dog and I walk every day. See, you're a dog person. Wendy's team dog. Right? So I hope that y'all can see the point I'm trying to make here is that when we have positive thoughts about something, it's going to create positive actions. We have negative thoughts about something, it's going to create negative actions, right? Or feelings of avoidance or whatever. So let's look at my super amazing pictures here because clearly I am an artist. So we talked about before this example of the road trip, right? We are on a road trip in life. We are eating healthfully, whatever. And we have said in the first few days of this workshop that if we're on a road trip on our healthy eating journey, we're not just going to turn around and go all the way home every time we mess up, right? But we characterize in our head self-sabotage as this super, super dramatic thing. So when we think about it, self-sabotage while we're on a road trip would be something like, can you just imagine this word, sabotage, okay? Like I'm throwing out my map, or can you imagine someone else sabotaging you, right? They steal your map. They put on a blindfold so you can't drive very well. They remove your steering wheel. They turn off your headlights at night, right? And then they take this really fancy knife and they poke holes in your tires, right? You love that knife. It's good, right? This is sabotage, right? This is actually the definition of sabotage because when you think of the word sabotage by itself, it's actually a very, very dramatic definition. And I wanted to, I was going to put in here, but I forgot. Let me put the definition of sabotage. It's really intense. Deliberately destroy, damage, or obstruct something, especially for political or military advantage. The action of sabotaging something, right? Let's see. any underhand interference with production work in a plant factory as enemy agents during wartime or by employees during a trade dispute. That's the number one goal, or the number one definition of sabotage. The other one is any undermining of a cause, which doesn't sound as dramatic, but the word, like synonyms for sabotage, vandalize, cripple, right? Like those are really intense. And that's what I want to point out to you first of all here, is that sabotage is such a dramatic word. That's the thing I want you to notice first. It really is something like this, where you throw out your map, you put on a blindfold, you remove your steering wheel, and you try to keep doing a road trip, right? Or like you hit a pothole and you throw your hands up in the air, you give up and you just walk away, right? You're like, why am I even driving? This is crazy. I'm just going to walk, or why am I even on a road trip? I'm going to go home. That kind of a thing. That's sort of when we characterize sabotage as like, oh, I did something on purpose to make myself mess up. First of all, even using that word sabotage, and you might think like, well, it's just a word, it doesn't really mean that much, but it really does. Because if our thoughts create our actions, thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions. If we're thinking we're sabotaging ourselves, it's this nefarious, like that's the word that I've been trying to come up with for a couple of days while I've been preparing this, like nefarious, like you did it on purpose. It was conscious, right? But what we know when we were looking at the definition of self-sabotage and the characteristics of it, most of it is unconscious. Most of it is something we're not even considering doing on purpose, right? So if it's actually unconscious, but we're describing it as something that we're doing to ourselves on purpose consciously, those things don't add up. Those definitions do not add up, okay? So first of all, number one, our idea that we're self-sabotaging is super freaking dramatic. First of all, let's not do that, okay? And I'm going to show you how not to do that in just a moment. But this brings to mind Bright Line Eating, and maybe some of you are familiar with the Bright Line Eating program. There's other programs like this as well, but there's all the diet programs talk about self-sabotage as an actual thing, okay? But as I said before, there's actually no such thing as self-sabotage. We are not literally sitting here like poking holes in our tires and like trying to mess up on purpose. That's not what we're doing. So when we say that we're doing that, it only hurts us and I'll show you why. Hold on. So let's see if we can feel the difference between these two thoughts. Now, if you're one of those people watching and you think that it doesn't matter what words we use, it's just a concept, right? Let me show you why it does matter. So here's how we can feel the difference. Tell me if you feel the difference between these two sentences. So first of all, we have a sentence that's, I sabotaged myself, right? Like over the weekend, I just sabotaged myself. Like it was just self-sabotage, right? When we think that, we have something like a feeling that comes up is something like disappointment, or I sabotaged is pretty strong. Something like, and I think another way of saying it is something like I am trying to hurt myself, or I don't know why I keep messing up. I keep forcing myself to mess up, or this is a thing I can't get over. I sabotaged myself. Feels so dramatic. It's more than just disappointment. It's like nefarious, right? It's like, I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts here. The comments always take a long time to show up. So that's why I try to just keep going when I can. But if we have this thought, I sabotage myself, a feeling that comes up is like, maybe it's extreme disappointment or something, right? Something like that, extreme disappointment. Now, how do we act when we feel extremely disappointed? Like we don't go out and make salads, right? We overeat some, or we don't eat our salads in our meal plan at all. Maybe we go out to eat a restaurant because we're just so sick of, what we're doing. So there's definitely overeating. Maybe there's some binging, right? So it's not good stuff. You can see how this kind of all goes in line when we think to ourselves, oh, I sabotaged myself again. I'm such a self-sabotager, right? Oh, the point I was going to make earlier is this, like, when these other diet plans use this idea of self-sabotage, and for instance, I brought up Bright Line Eating because they actually use the word saboteur, and they actually have you internalize the word saboteur, and it just kills me every time I hear this, that people are being taught to internalize a message that they have a saboteur inside of themselves. It's ridiculous. It's just an unconscious thought that wants us to get out of some pain. That's it. It's all it is. I'm going to show you more about that in a moment, but it really bothers me when we use this internal language at ourselves. And the funny part is every time I get on a private call with someone or on a group call, I bring out stuff that they didn't even know was in their head. They get so surprised. I didn't even know I thought that. But we're thinking these things all the time. And the more we think them, the more they create our feelings, and those create our actions, right? Shameful. Oh, that's a good one. This one is really good. Mary came up with shameful. I love that. Extreme disappointment. That's a really good. Oops, that's too big. Let me get a smaller eraser. Well, I'm just going to add it. So I'm just going to go shameful, right? Okay. So shameful is like, shame is one of the worst feelings we have. Oh, that's a tough one, right? And it's all internal, and we hide, and shame can only exist inside when we're hiding. Shame doesn't exist on the outside. If we talk about it, we get it out in the open, the shame disappears. Shame is an internal hiding kind of an emotion. And that is kind of putting yourself through your own hell, right? That doesn't sound very fun, right? So the words that we use, if the thoughts and the words and the sentences we have in our heads, whether they're subconscious or conscious, are creating our feelings, why choose ones that are super dramatic? Okay, so this is what I want you to see first. Now let's move to this other one. I chose a sentence that felt more neutral. I ate something I didn't plan to. Okay, I ate something I didn't plan to. Now I'm going to Trina says, I get it. I see the brightest light, Cheri. I'm so happy to see that. Now, listen, I'm going to ask you guys this question. I want you to answer in the comment section. Do you feel the difference between the sentence, I sabotaged myself, and the sentence, I ate something I didn't plan to? Do you feel the difference? And can you tell me what that difference is? I sabotaged myself. I ate something I didn't plan to. I sabotaged myself. Again, I ate something I didn't plan to. Can you feel that difference there? Yeah, that is part of it here, Pamela. The law of attraction, like attracts like. When we're thinking of this negative stuff, we create more negativity. I have a little bit of issue with the law of attraction because I think it removes some of our personal power. But that being said, it is what we're thinking about that creates our feelings, and our feelings create our actions. Right, Trina, look at this. So one of those is acceptable, right? The other one is not acceptable. A Facebook user says, yes, the difference is there's no self-judgment. Jennifer says, yes, second sentence is more forgiving. Exactly. Jennifer says, yes. Oh, we got two Jennifers. Such a more neutral connotation that speaks to the action. It takes the emotion out of the behavior. That's exactly right. The word I was looking for was neutral. Mary Rose says, shame versus an insight. Perfect. Facebook user, I feel relief just reading that, right? Anna she says, we create blame in the first statement. Rachel says, sabotage myself is, oh shit, I ate something I didn't plan to. Whoopsie, right? Ate something I didn't plan to is just whoops, like that happened, right? Free Spirit says, to say the second thing, you can just move on, not stop in your tracks and continue eating unplanned foods. That's right. And you don't start to make this huge story up about how terrible you are and what's wrong with you and why can't you get this right? Like it was just, I ate something I didn't plan to, right? Rebecca says, yes, this is what has been helping me since your talk yesterday. Kinder, nicer thoughts and recognize what I do right isn't all bad. That's right. You're so welcome. So look, now you can feel the difference there. So I ate something I didn't plan to. I'm going to take this word neutral because I really love that word. The feeling's more neutral, right? It's factual. And this is what I teach all the time. This is the basis of my coaching, is to get to a place of calm, peaceful empowerment. Those are the three emotions that I'm always trying to get folks to. If we can do everything in our life with calm, peaceful empowerment, like whether COVID is happening, whether we just lost our job, whether our father just died, whether this happened or that happened, if we can still be calm and peaceful, it doesn't mean that we don't get sad sometimes or that we don't freak out sometimes or whatever. But if we can come back to calm, peaceful, and empowerment and act from there, look what happens when you come from a place of like neutrality, factuality, right? What are the actions? The actions are probably more like when you feel neutral and factual, the actions you're going to take are just like neutral with food, right? Like I'm going to have the salad, right? Or I'm going to plan my meals. kind of a thing. You see what I mean? Like neutral, factual, this happened. It doesn't mean the next meal is going to be like that. It doesn't mean like all the rest of my meals forever are going to be like, we don't have this huge story of like, oh, I self-sabotage. I can't stop doing this. This is just who I am, right? We don't have that whole story going on. Our story is literally, and this is the one that I wanted to point out the most here. I did a thing. Right? That's another sentence for I ate something I didn't plan to. I did a thing. Like I just did a thing. I chose this meal or this food versus that food, period. Like there's no judgment. Like I shouldn't have, there's none of that. It's just, I did this and I meant to do this, right? This is totally neutral. That's the difference there. Okay. So just thinking of it as sabotage makes it feel so much worse than it actually was. Yeah, Carol says the first one has judgment and creates an identity based on that one action. That's exactly it. Wendy says first one is shame, second is acceptance. Diana says, yes, another light bulb moment. Cheri says, for sure, sabotage said like you said it felt really deep. Now, this is the thing, Cheri. Because it's an unconscious story that we have that we keep playing in our head, we are acting based on it. We don't even realize it. We have a whole story of like, oh, I'm so terrible. I keep doing this. What's wrong with me, right? Where in the future, if we get our thoughts more to, I just did that, I didn't mean to, I'm going to work on this next time, whatever. When we get there, that's when our actions can, like the next meal that we have. So here's what usually happens, right? You self-sabotage this big dramatic thing. You have this whole meal. It's terrible. You're a terrible person. Of course, that next meal is going to be also terrible, not because you're a terrible person, but because you are in a state of negativity. That's why. It's not because there's actually some magnetic pull of you to this next 3 to 6 weeks of terrible behavior. There's no actual weird slippery slope happening. That's not a thing. The slippery slope is not a thing. It's only a thing if you think it is. Can you see what I mean? There is no slippery slope. There is no self-sabotage. It's just you thinking there is. It's just you being in this negative place of like, I'm such a terrible person. One meal is not connected to the next meal at all. And to think it is silly, right? Victimhood versus owning it. Trini says, I posted today, I ate something non-compliant, but forgave myself. Same. Yeah, I just want to say, Trina, I don't like the word compliant either. That's pretty like, right? What is compliance? Compliance with who, right? I like to think of it as, I ate something I didn't plan to. Right? Nobody's telling me what to eat. I just didn't plan on eating it and I didn't eat it, right? Consider that word too. Oh, this is a good one. My word is frantic from your coaching. Yeah. What else do we have? Yeah. Calm, peaceful empowerment, Pamela. It's kind of like falling down and giving up versus falling down and getting back up. That's exactly right. I made a choice. Like I did a thing for sure. So simple. Oh, this is good. Catherine in the family, she says, this morning I looked at myself and thought, wow, I'm so heavy. Why did I eat that thing last night? Led to feeling depressed. I changed my thought to, I have a protocol today and losing weight takes time, which is factual. This changed my day completely. And look at how it wasn't based on anything that happened the day before. The day before is not connected to today. The last meal that you ate is not connected to the next meal at all. There's no invisible string tying the two together. That's all in your head. It's just a story. It's not real. And so many of our thoughts are not real. They're just what we call thought errors, right? We have like, oh my gosh, it depends on who you ask, but 26, 30, 60,000 thoughts per day, right? Some of them are not going to be correct, right? Some of those are not going to be correct. And they're just going to be things we've repeated for so long. And when we've repeated things for so long, it just becomes our story. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how the human brain works, right? If we keep repeating that story, we keep allowing it to run our days and tell us what to do, it's just going to keep perpetuating itself. Yeah. Rebecca, you're on fire again. This is what you were born to do. I'm so glad. So cool to see it in action. Yeah, you should see when I really get going. I try to hold it back there for a sec because I could feel myself getting real worked up there, and we do that more in the family, right? Yeah. This is this works. Take a breath, take water, walk around the block, take yourself out of the situation. But here's what I like to actually what we talk about in the Eat to Live family, because you're not always going to be able to just drink water, walk around the block, take yourself out of the situation, right? How many times have you been in a restaurant, for instance, and you're having that craving and you can't just like get up and walk away, right? So the work is done, Amber, in our head. And that's what I teach you in the Eat to Live family. That's what I teach you in my coaching, is that the work is all done up here and we have the power. Like, I like to think of it like the workshop is all right here. We don't need like outside tools to do anything. We just do it up here. And when we get really good at it, then we can take that workshop wherever we want. We can go to holiday parties, we can go to weddings, we can go on vacation, we can do all these things. And we know that the tools that we need in order to continue following the path we want to follow, they're all right here. So we don't have to worry about like, oh, I didn't bring my food scale with me, or, oh, they have this food here that I can never resist, right? That's a thought inside your mind. You get to do this anywhere you want. And the more you practice it, the better you get. So now listen, just look at the difference between these two, the same person, but one person thinks slippery slope. If I eat this one thing, it's going to lead to this and this and this, and I'm going to be off for weeks and I'm going to gain all the weight back, right? That's one set of thoughts, same person. But now this person starts to be able to think, there is no slippery slope. Like, that's silly. I just had an off meal, and the next meal I will not have off. I will just have a salad, right? There is no, I hear this sentence, oh my gosh, all the time in my own head from the past. I understand this thought now when it comes in, but oh my gosh, all my clients say this sentence. I just don't know why I can't get back on track, right? As if there's some imaginary force holding you back and making it so that you can't get back on track. And that doesn't exist. It's not a thing. I just don't know why I can't get back to where I was when I first started, or when whatever magical thing was happening. I just don't know why I can't get back there. It's all up here. The reason we did it in the first place, the reason that we were successful in the first place was all up here. And the reason that we went off track, off plan, is all up here too. The solution is all in the same place, like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. It's always been right here. And that's the beautiful part, is that we get to practice that. So Amber, to your comment here, it is in taking the breath. It's the very first thing you said. It is in taking the breath where the thought shift is possible. It is just that first moment of noticing, becoming aware. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about this more in a sec. And I like to think of it like this, right? Like, is it sabotage? And I don't know if you guys are from, I don't think most of you are in my generation, but if you know that Beastie Boys song, Sabotage, actually, when I was doing my research, I listened to that song again. And it's so funny because the music video is so dramatic, but it's meant to be, because it's a really silly, like, dramatic song. The opening line, like the chorus is like, well, I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to embarrass myself, but it's so dramatic, this song. And then the music video is like so over the top dramatic as well, on purpose. It's hilarious. And that's what I want you to see, like, this story in our head of sabotage. It's hilarious too. Like, there is no, like, silly, like, knives being shoved into our car while we're rocking, or nobody's putting a blindfold on our face while we're trying to drive. Like, none of it, like, nobody's sabotaging us, right? So is it sabotage, or is it simply just standing in your own way? Now, I like this idea of standing in your own way, because here you are driving, but you're also standing in front of the car. So clearly you can't drive, right? Because unless you want to kill yourself, which you don't. We definitely don't want to do that, right? But you don't want to drive forward because you don't want to hurt yourself. You really do want to take care of yourself, but you're just standing here like, why am I standing here? I don't know. Oh, I know. I'll just walk out of the way, right? So then you just get up and you move over. And now you can start to drive forward, right? That's how you drive forward. You just get out of your own way. And the way that you get out of your own way is by working on those thoughts that are happening, right? Oh, I'm just in my own way again. Like, I keep telling myself I can't possibly get back on track. I'm just in my own way again. Just got to get out of my way and, like, make the salad, it's not rocket science, right? But it seems like rocket science because we're letting our thoughts run everything, because we're using thoughts like sabotage to run things. And when we are in a very, very negative space, we're going to have negative actions. So how can we get out of that negative action and that negative feeling? It's by changing our thoughts. And that's what I teach you how to do in the Eat to Live family. Okay. Yeah. Take a pause. Don't react. And that's what it is, standing in your own way. Yeah. Which is not that big of a deal, right? You just moved. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You're just in your own way for a moment. You just get out of the way. Now you may proceed. Right? Like it just feels like so much more light and calm when you think of it that way, instead of like sabotage, you know? All right. So the solution, very quickly, because we got to wrap up here. The solution is we're just sort of saying, where's my fancy little thing? Okay. Is awareness and a simple plan. Okay. So number one, what I was just saying, and which, who brought that up? It was Amber. Amber brought up the first solution is just taking a breath, just pausing and just becoming aware of what we're thinking and what we did and why we did it and what was our trigger for that particular situation, right? Like, oh, I overate because I was feeling this way or because I was thinking this or whatever. We're just kind of like using our tools to see what happens. So we become aware of the situation. First of all, we don't go off into subconscious land and just ignore it or pretend like it didn't happen or whatever. We become aware. We breathe and we become aware. Then we use our simple plan. We need to have a simple plan. That's pretty important here. Our simple plan in the Eat to Live family is the 4-step PAL system. PALS. All right. PAL stands for plan, allow, assess, and love. It is in the Eat to Live family in the Quick Start program. So it's actually it is the very first video that you watch when you join the Eat to Live family. We talk about the PAL system. And like I said, we call each other pals, and it's really cute and fun. But it is our basic system that we just keep coming back to. We keep coming back to. And I teach you all about what those exactly mean, how to plan your food, how to allow urges, how to assess what's going on, and how to love yourself all at the same time. So you keep coming back to that system. So the idea is become aware, see what's happening, see what the story is in your brain, and then work the little system that you have, because it's always there for you. It's always available. You can always come back to it when you need, okay? This is a good one. Vegeta Bowles says, everything you are saying applies to all aspects of our lives, not just weight loss. Exactly. And that is why I'm a life coach as well as an Eat to Live expert, right? The life coaching that I do with this mindset stuff, but I think I mentioned this on another week too. Or maybe I mentioned this to a client recently. The life coaching that I do is about thought work. So if you're following any other diet that you hear about, it's based on here's what you eat, here's when you eat it. You need to have accountability. So you have to check in this many amount of times in order to succeed. You've got to have a buddy. You have to have outside things that help you. Some diet plans are very specifically like Weight Watchers. You need to understand points. You got to count your points. You got to count calories, or other programs, Bright Line Eating, for instance, you have to take a scale with you to a restaurant if you're going to go to a restaurant, so you can actually weigh and measure your food. If you're going to go on vacation, you have to bring that scale with you. You have to be tied to this outside system all the time for it to work. Now, it works for some people. If you actually follow the plan, it works, but it is not transferable to anything else in life, right? Now, those programs don't work very well anyways. The rate of success for those programs, not that great. But for those folks who it does work for, cool, that's great. It worked for you to lose weight. But did you really learn anything about how to apply this to anything else in your life? No, because you can't apply calorie counting to stress at work, right? They're not the same thing. But what I do is life coaching. And so when we actually shift our mindset for good. Now, I'm going to give a little plug for what I just did here. Okay. Because what I just did was a lot more than just explain to you about self-sabotage. What I did was I rewired your brain in 1 hour. Now you're never going to think of that term self-sabotage the same way ever again. Are you? Let me know in the comments. Are you ever, vegetable meat? Because there's a Hungarian powder that you can pour on vegetables. That's called Vegeta. So that's why I said that, but vegetables, got it. Will you ever think of self-sabotage the same way anymore? Will you ever use that term against yourself anymore, ever again? Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Jennifer Nelson, forever changed. For sure. Exactly. You guys don't know I did that to you, but that was my Jedi mind trick on this, on this call right here. That's what I did on purpose. Make it so that you can never look at that term again, right? not in the same way. You can never look at this Facebook user. Never, never, ever. You can never look at that again. That, Pamela says, no, that is what my life coaching does. That is how we shift mindset. Now, Amber also says, no, good. I'm glad to hear you guys were brainwashed effectively today. Now, let me explain to you kind of what I did there on a more of meta level. I didn't tell you what to think. I didn't tell you what to think about. Yeah, and this is the thing, Trina. Okay, I will use it, but I will quickly shift. This is my exact point here. Now, I didn't tell you what to think. I didn't come on this call and I didn't say, don't think of self-sabotage anymore. Think this instead. I didn't tell you to think, what was the example I gave earlier? I didn't tell you to think, I ate something I didn't plan to. No, I went all in on this sentence right here. I didn't go, oh guys, this is what you're going to think instead, right? I didn't just come in and tell you what to think. That doesn't work. That's this idea of affirmations. Like, oh, just find an affirmation and just tell yourself you're really good at this all the time, or tell yourself you're amazing and you're so good at dieting, or weight loss is easy, or whatever. Like, that's an affirmation. It doesn't work. What works is looking at the root of what we were actually thinking before and pulling that apart and dissecting that in a way that's like, that's crazy. I'm never going to think that again. Right? And that's what I did. I harped on this part. I harped on the sabotage part. And I pulled that string apart for you. I pulled that knot that was in your head about self-sabotage. I just pulled it apart. And now every time, like Trina says, every time it comes up for you, which it will, and that's a good point that she made here right in the beginning, I will use it, but it will quickly shift. Look how good I'm getting at the weather girl thing, right? I will use it, but it will quickly shift. That's the whole point. It's going to keep coming up and that's fine. But your brain is going to be like, ha ha, that's funny. We don't use that word anymore. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you're being so dramatic right now, right? You're going to see that inside your own head. That's how you shift your mindset. That is how you actually change long-term. Because what I just taught you to do is realize that it's all up here. Everything you've ever needed to lose weight permanently and to eat healthy permanently for the rest of your life is all up here. And I just demonstrated that for you. I hope it is a lifelong shift for you. And I would be happy to shift all the other things that are creating struggle for you. Okay? Facebook user got goosebumps. Pamela says, I am shifting and releasing and crying the toxic energetic thoughts that brought me here now as a first-time overweight person. That's what we're going to do. Those thoughts that you have right now, I can shift all those for you. We do that in the coaching. We do that in the mindset coaching. And I will show you how to shift it yourself so that you don't need me always to shift it for you. Once you learn this and once you really get this concept in your bones that your thoughts are a choice, every single one of your thoughts are a choice. And as who said it? Trina said, them coming in isn't necessarily a choice, but you can shift them at any moment. You will learn that, and that will become deep in your bones. And then you will be able to create anything in your life that you want to, not just with weight loss and healthy eating. That's our first goal. But then you'll be able to apply it to everything. Okay. So Free Spirit says, this is such a wonderful journey with your coaching, enlightening. Thoughts are being changed today. I'm so glad to hear that. That was the point. Yolanda, you need to come back. You need to rewatch this replay. Sorry, I'm late to the party, but I can't wait to watch the rerun on this topic. I so need this. You will never think about self-sabotage the same way when you're done, okay? Trina, thank you. Jennifer says, absolutely not. Heather says, the model is a game changer. Pamela says, awesome. I'm so glad. I'm so glad, y'all. This person is a spammer, so I'm going to block that person. Okay. Patrice says, yes, the mind work is everything. My mind is blown as I go through the lessons, and my strategy is to repeat the calls and lessons over and over and keep making the shifts. I'm so glad. Patrice is one of the Eat to Live family members. Rebecca says, thank you. Each time it seeps in more and more. This was a great one. Diana says, thanks. These workshops have been so helpful and fantastic. Jessica says, yes, thanks for helping me change my thinking and reactions to this and keeping me more positive, because positivity is motivating. That's right. Positivity. So what we're trying to do here is we don't necessarily need to be in up, excitement, motivation all the time. That's not what gets us there, because that's not how we're going to be when we're 10 years down the line and it's easy for us, right? When we're 10 years down the line and it's easy for us, we're going to be calm, peaceful, and empowered. And food is going to be a non-issue. We're just going to eat what we need to eat. It's going to be all good, right? So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for being, oh my gosh, so active and so wonderful. This was such a wonderful call.
Okay, what'd you think? Was that mind-blowing or what? I hope you really, really loved that one. I loved teaching that one. And I just wanted to say, we are opening the Eat to Live family for registration right now. So if you like this kind of mindset stuff and you felt like it was super helpful, I have so much more of this where it comes from in order to help you lose the weight, eat to live, and learn to do all of this for good, consistently, and just love the process. So I have created a monthly coaching membership, super affordable, called the Eat to Live family, and I would love to welcome you in. We're open for registration right now, and we're closing really, 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 really soon. So when you see this video, it might even be closed. So make sure you check out real quick. Go to info.thewateringmouth.com/join the family. We would love to see you in there. Look, I'm recording this only on the first day of launch, and look how many people are already in. Just like, we've only been open for like 9 hours. So check this out. You really want to join in. We have over 200 people in there, and it is just so phenomenal. Such great energy. We'd love to see you in there. So join the Eat to Live family. I hope you like this little workshop. See you soon. Bye.